Welcome everybody to Coblo's The Whistle with your host Reco Jackson, streaming live from Stone Mountain, Georgia, via at Anniston, Alabama. I'd like to welcome all of the people from the 58 different countries and the different people from around the United States that may be tuning in today. And I hope we can share this broadcast and get other people to tune in. Today's topic, I'm starting back up from where we left off from last week. We got pretty good information going on. A lot of good discussion between brothers about religion / spirituality and education / science. Can they coexist? Does religion or spirituality actually diminish the importance of education and science? And the reason why I decided to bring that topic back, or I even brought it up in the first place, was because we have a lot of things in our past history around the world that's pretty much been, I'll say, as we discovered, we couldn't figure out how it was achieved. We really can't figure out how the pyramids were built. We have certain civilizations with water systems and aqueducts and everything, that's really beyond our imagination. We can't figure out how they achieve these scientific accomplishments. So is it possible that somewhere within our gaining more acceptance of religion and spirituality, that we lost some kind of science that may have helped contribute to us getting to where we are today, or some kind of logic? So today I have a guest. One of my guest panelists on is Leonard Jones. He's one of the members of I'll let Leonard introduce himself. Go ahead, Leonard.
What's up, man? Reco. This Leonard Jones, national spokesperson for New Order National Human Rights Organization.
Good, congrats. Thank you, Leonard. Thank you for tuning in and coming in and joining me today, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I think I have a few callers in already. If I could, what caller have I got on the line, and where are you calling from? Are there any callers on the line today? If not, we'll go ahead and get started, Leonard. Leonard, I think Kurt's supposed to be calling in. Yeah. Leonard, last week we discussed quite a few different things pertaining to what's going on, Kurt. We had quite a few things that we discussed pertaining to religion and spirituality and its influence on education and science. We spoke about heretics, and a couple of people came in and spoke about entomology. And do you have any kind of input or knowledge of, some of the questions you may have about some of the past education or science that we achieved in civilization that what effect religion or spirituality may have played on it?
Well, of course, I was trying to figure out exactly where we left off, but I know we had a conversation related to how Black folks practice religion and the background of religion, as well as science and nature and things, and a lot of lost knowledge. And a lot of that lost knowledge, a lot of times, is looked down upon by certain people. And so, one, of course, they have to coexist because they always have. There's always been a huge rift between the church and science. However, as time goes on, more things are revealed. Technology pushes us further and further. So it gets to the point now where rational people have to say, hey, there may be something to that.
Right.
As opposed to the Bible say, leave it alone, that type of thing. Because if there is knowledge available, then it is our duty to try to find out if we can. And I think I also mentioned in the previous conversation before, many of your, quote, secret societies are based and formed around hidden knowledge. And so those are the things that are very, it's a lot of information out there. If you care to study it, if you want to get involved, you can. And you will be shocked and surprised at how far we have come as people in relation to trying to figure out how God set this thing in motion.
Right. There's a lot of science involved in that. A lot of science involved in this, and some of it we can't figure out. Some of it is going to be eons before we figure it out. Right, it's amazing to see how far we've come now. But this might be a little going toward left field, but does it sort of make you wonder how in the last 50 or 60 years, how fast we've come up with technology compared to the last 500 or 600 or maybe 1,000 years? Or is it possible that maybe we've seen this type of technology before, or even stronger, more powerful technology than this at some point in history?
Well, we got more time on our hands now. Some people couldn't get involved in science and things like that because they were too busy trying to feed their families
Yeah.
and do all these other types of things. So you didn't have time to be sitting around doing experiments and all these types of things. But there were a few people who did, and we all have benefited from it. There'll be things that we create now that the next civilization will be able to use. But if you have certain people who believe ain't gonna be no next civilization, then you cause an issue with some folks.
Right.
But I remember in school how important it was when we first saw the virus the first time. And that was made possible by highly powered electron microscopes. So now, as opposed to assigning that to some evil spirit on why somebody got sick, you can look and see, hey, the people who got sick from research and autopsies and all, they had a virus.
Right.
They wasn't possessed by the devil. They had a virus.
Mm-hmm.
They had some mental instability that may be related to some type of physical issue. But it's very interesting to me, and I don't believe that the church or the science should be separate.
Right. Now we have like a big thing going on between people that endorse vaccines and then they don't endorse vaccines. But then I've seen where people had children that really needed vaccines or maybe some type of medication that they wouldn't allow their children to have it because of religious reasons. They would say that they would, want them to heal naturally or whatever, and the court system would have to come in and intervene on behalf of that child's health. What's your stance on that?
Well, I believe that we have to respect people's religion, and vaccines are primarily a choice, whether you want to take it or not. Yes, there's a whole bunch of science behind how your body naturally will respond to a virus. However, sometimes your body may not respond quick enough, and you die. But that's the risk that everyone take. Now, I'm not for that whole law that intervenes. I've worked on cases of that before where the judge or the doctor was just overbearing, and the doctor did not want patients to get second opinions or anything. However, sometimes your body may not respond quick enough, but his money is made by that's the risk that by what he do to you. You know what I'm saying? That whole all that, and we got that feedback out here in the back.
Something going on.
Somebody got to turn their radio down or something. That's better.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, we have these issues, but we can look at things like the polio vaccine, for instance. All the various vaccines. I was in the military. My man Kurt was in the military. So, they hit you with a whole round before you deploy and go places, especially where that there's an issue. We still have people dying of something as simple as malaria. You don't hear about malaria deaths in the United States very much, do you?
No, I think it was a couple of years ago they had an outbreak.
Well, yeah, but it was never like what our brothers and sisters in Africa would be facing.
Oh, no.
And in that case, if you have medicine that can prevent it, it's to your best interest to use it. I remember when babies we used to have high infant mortality rates.
Right.
But because of progress, few babies die during childbirth now. Fewer women die during childbirth. So medicine, vaccines, and things like that are sometimes necessary. A lot of the people that had the problems with vaccines also have issues with surgery, blood transfusions, and things like that as well. So it's not just a religion about vaccines. That's not what it is. It's an actual religious preference on what certain people believe, and they're willing to die for that belief.
Right.
So if they're willing to accept the risk, hey, that's on them.
Okay, I think I got Curtis on. Curtis, would you consider that somewhat extreme though? If say for instance, when a child is suffering from some type of terminal cancer or some progressive cancer, that the parents don't want to send their child through this extreme treatment. They may say it's extreme, or it may just be against their beliefs. What does the child's rights stand with that, having that accessibility to science to help treat their illnesses compared to just having to wait on God to heal them? I think you're on mute.
Well, I'd be the first one to tell you that as a believer, Yeshua fed 5,000 with 2 loaves of bread and 5 fish.
Mm-hmm.
So when I hear people, you know, what you just asked me reminds me of the story of the pastor in the church. And the hurricane coming, the pastor, the water coming the doors, you get to their ankles. The parishioners start to leave. They tell the pastor, come on, you know, we're going to higher ground.
Mm-hmm.
The pastor say, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to wait till God going to save me, right? So some other parishioners, they sat there, you know, and then it get up to their waist. And the one parishioner say, look, man, I got a boat. Come on, pastor, we got to go. Our whole town ready to be flooded out. Pastor say, no, I'm going to stay. God going to save me. Y'all go ahead. Eventually, the water got up to his neck, right?
Right.
When it got up to his neck, the same parishioner rolled by on the boat. He said, pastor, come on, give me your hand. You know, you're going to drown. Come on. He said, no, y'all go it on and go. Save yourselves. God going to save me. Well, he drowned.
Mm-hmm.
When he got to heaven, he walked before God and he said, God, look, I done everything that you asked me to do. Father, why didn't you save me? God looked at him and said, what do you mean why I didn't save you? I sent you 3 saviors. You didn't take them. So I hear people talking about, you know, the vaccines and according to religion, we ain't supposed. You know, man has worked so hard. I believe man has a God complex anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So man has worked so hard to either try and be God or be greater than God. That's why man has worked so hard to separate the science from religion.
Right.
Right? When in reality, science is just not chemicals and compounds. Science is the ideology of building.
Mm-hmm.
Science is the ideology of writing. Science is in everything. And for me, as a believer, I got to say it to you, brother, the greatest scientist ever is God.
Mm-hmm.
When you think in terms of, if we was to think in terms of, okay, the earth and all within it, and the universe and everything outside of the earth. It is amazing, man. Like when you really look and you take some time and you do a study like of the universe, the planets, and so forth and so on, it is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not a believer, like I've had conversations with atheists who believe in the Big Bang Theory. You know, my question always is, Rick.
What's that?
Well, what created the ball?
Right.
Okay, if you don't want to believe that God created the heavens and the earth and you saying it's a Big Bang Theory. Well, what created the ball?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me that. You're telling me that this big ball of antimatter just came out of nowhere. It just manifested and then it exploded and created a universe and the earth and Jupiter and Saturn and Mars. Right. Come on, like man has to stop trying to be God or be greater than God. You'll never be able to achieve that.
Right. But now, to me, also, man has to understand that he has to use a lot of logic along with his faith and spirituality. Like you said, God sent the saviors by 3 times. You know, so with some of these people that may be denying their children this technology and this medicine that can help save their children. Because I mean, I've seen some extreme cases where people will just refuse all treatment. They'll refuse it and wait for the religious turn to do what it does. And say, for instance, with the snake charmers, I've seen people play with snakes and they play and do this religious thing, and then next thing you know, when that snake hit them, they in bad shape. You know what I'm saying? You think to yourself, man, wait a minute, you gotta use a little bit more logic than that. You know what I'm saying? God gave you some sense too. You know, so I mean, how big is it? I mean, because that's a huge dilemma in deciding whether or not you want to favor vaccines or not. Because sometimes vaccines do help people. You know, we learned about polio, malaria. We've had a lot of different situations where vaccines did help, but then we had situations where people with ulterior motives utilize it for the wrong way.
Absolutely.
So, you know, and that's really not a religious thing, but people that depend on religion will probably use that as a reason to justify not wanting to use medicine. You know, go ahead.
As a matter of fact, I'm glad you said logic. See, man has put science in the categories without ever really understanding true science, because logic is considered a science. The analytical breakdown of the mind to stimulate endorphins in the brain that makes you or creates thought in your mind is a science. You're moving electrons and neutrons. Your brain is moving these things that are scientifically proven to operate, that they must operate in order for you to be a living, breathing specimen on the earth.
Exactly.
So logic has become a science. However, I'm going to go back to my original preference. Man, it is my belief that man truly, truly, truly has a God complex. I just believe that's it. I had my best friend, man. And I'm pretty sure he won't mind me saying this. I won't say his name, but his wife was anemic. But she was of a religious culture that didn't do the blood, like y'all was talking about, the blood transfusions, the inoculations, the vaccines, whatever. She was of a religion that don't believe in that, right? So my man had just got married. I don't even think they have been married a year. She suffered a setback while she was pregnant. And so get to the hospital, and the doctors are saying, look, we're going to have to get this young lady a blood transfusion, right? The mama and the daddy is like, no. So a situation ensued, because how you going to tell me as her husband that I can't do everything, or I can't lean in a direction that ensures everything about the existence of not only my wife, but my unborn child? How you going to tell me no? Where is that in? I mean, somebody can point it out to me, but where is that in the Bible? That inoculation and vaccines are against God's law. I mean, I would really like to know that, because in my mind, inoculations and vaccines are God's way of helping man adjust to the evolution of the world.
Right.
I don't quite understand it, my brother. And I don't have a doctorate in it to scientifically break it down. But I can tell you this: everything that exists on this earth and thereof is all based on science. You ever seen the study on how Moses actually separated the Red Sea? You ever seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
It is actually based on a science. It's not based on him sticking a stick in the ground.
Did it have something to do with a tidal wave, tsunami?
It had something to do with the ebbs and flows of the air in that particular area of the Red Sea. I seen a documentary. I got it here in the house somewhere. If I can ever find it, I'll make sure I send it to you so you can watch it for yourself. What happens is at a certain time of the day, just like we have high tide and low tide, there's a real gust of wind that comes through that particular area. When it comes through, it is so strong and so powerful. I think they said it comes through, it doesn't come through every day. It comes through, I think they said like twice a year. But it is so strong and so powerful that it basically splits the sea. And that gust of wind becomes almost like a wall, right? And if you watch any of the movies, when they're walking through, it never dawned on me that when they're walking through, it's like they're walking against the wind. You see everything behind them, their clothes is blowing back. But it was in the documentary, there was a non-believer who was saying that there's no way. Basically, the documentary takes the greatest things that's happened in the Bible,
right,
and it uses the science to either prove or disprove.
Okay, yeah, I think I did see that.
So when they got to the Moses part, they couldn't disprove that it didn't happen because they found that time of the year on that day, and they went and did the actual experiment, and then they did the experiment, for example, by taking like an aquarium and hooking up a fan and this, that, and the third, and had the power running through the fan. And when the wind came through, guess what it did? It separated the water in the aquarium. So that's when they went out to the thing. So, I mean, I've always been a real strong, even as a child, I never understood why church folk separated God from science. I never understood that.
I'm glad you went there. I'm gonna ask Leonard this. Because I know some religious practices use a lot of science. Quite a few religious practices, they use a lot of science. But what made it so hard for Christianity to accept a lot of the sciences? Like I heard Muslims refer to the wheel, the mother wheel. And some people may relate that to the chariots of fire, I guess the chariots that was in the sky in the Bible. But at the same time, a lot of Christians may not accept that as science. They may accept that as just straight supernatural. You know, so why is it so hard for Christianity to relate science to its the spiritual part that it connects to?
Hello?
Are you on mute, Leonard?
It's not hard for religion to do that. Religion refuses to do that. It's not hard at all. You have to remember this whole rift started in the first place because the church wanted to control everything. Most those verses that refer to these types of things are any verses that prove to you, like say for instance, Matthew 9:12, for instance, or you should, if you're a Christian, there's this thing that you shouldn't need a physician because God is your physician. If you seek these types of things, then it is an affront to God's ability to do things, and that you trust man more than you trust God. So by taking vaccinations and things like that, you're relying on man to heal you as opposed to God. So this is the whole concept. Also, a second thing, Jesus caused all these problems with the church because he was taking away church business. Church had a business of doing certain things and ruling over these people. So if I got a man out here healing the sick and I'm supposed to be God and have power to heal and I ain't heal nobody, that's going to cause an issue.
Right.
And also we see in various texts as well that whatever was brought to a king or something like that, the king had magicians, doctors, scientists, and everybody. But there were just some things that even the king's scientists and doctors couldn't figure out. So then he would then the king in turn would be told that, hey, there's some people over here that believe in this God that does these things, and we've seen these folks heal themselves and speak these types of incantations and things over the sick, and they be healed.
Right.
So these are two battling authorities on the matter. The king not gonna let you be running around doing more than him, so he's gonna try to silence you if you won't work for him. So that's where this rift in the church came from. When and we have all these things, like, say, for instance, some people would rather die. Some people believe that blood is sacred because there are so many commandments. I mean, not commandments, scripture on not eating it. You understand what I'm saying? So there are several scriptures in the Bible that would say you don't need to be healed by man. God will heal you. This is God's temple. He knows the answer. You do not need to lean on man for this or that. So this is why Christians, well, I shouldn't say most Christians, but certain, sects, I would say, of Christianity believe certain way. Seventh-day Adventists have the dietary thing down packed, the fasting and things of that nature. A lot of that is because that's proven science that works when you do those things. A lot of the issues that we have today is we're trying to compare us to people who actually believed in living lives holy and separate. But now most of you mixing together, so you can't sit here and say, I'm going to be healed by God because I'm righteous. You may be righteous, but you eat too much cholesterol. You understand?
Right.
You can be righteous all you want. You can be righteous all you want, but you let that cholesterol clog up your heart, you're going to die.
Exactly.
So it gets to a point, I understand where some people believe, and you got young black folks now, black people now, they don't want to do it because they've seen us taken advantage of before. So, I believe in medicine and I use anything. I had one individual, I won't call his name, got very upset with me because of my, it's not belief, but my study and things like that on the spine and the nervous system and things like that, and they would swear this was witchcraft.
Right.
But it's not witchcraft at all. It exists. So there's this word called ontological philosophy, and it's to deal with the nature of being.
Right.
So as Kurt was saying, when he talking to them atheists, well, what happened? How did it happen first? Well, what ball? Who created the bang? So we put God there. God is the first mover. He is the designer of all things. And so that's what we believe. Now, you may have had a big bang, but it had nothing to do with the creation of the world. There are big bangs going on right now that ain't creating nothing but more debris.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In the universe. So it's people get upset because they think that you're challenging God when this happens.
Right.
If you come up with a new medicine to cure people, instead of looking at the benefit, some people would say, well, how is he curing them? Like they accused Jesus. Well, he can cure and heal because he uses the power of the devils that he served.
Yeah, right.
So it's all about finding favor with people and things like that I think clouded things. It's because science is going to move a lot faster than religion.
Right.
Religion does not want to change at all. I mean, that's religion. We don't change. God don't change, so we don't change.
I'm going to stick the number out there for anybody to call that's tuning in. It's 678-381-1973 if you want to call in to the broadcast and give an opinion on this topic we're discussing today. Today's topic is religion and education or science. Can they coexist or do they contradict each other? Over time, I've noticed that sometimes they have coexisted, and then at times, I guess it depends on what ruler was around at the time.
Right, exactly.
In the past,
that paid a big deal too.
If they accepted certain parts of science, and then now, like with science, some people were turned off by science. Like I said last week, I was turned off for it at one point in time because they had me not believing in a higher power. I'm gonna say not believing it, but I felt like if you listen too much to it, you would not believe in it because you can lean on it a little bit too much or put too much faith into it and take him out the equation. But recently, I've seen where science is actually proving the existence of spirits. You know, what happens after death? What happens to your consciousness? You know what I'm saying? They did studies talking about the energy that remains in your body and different things like that. So I'm with you on that. I feel that over time, after they dig enough, sooner or later, they're going to realize that it is bigger than science. But at the same time, we have to utilize this science because it is God's gift.
And Christians have to realize science is how we explain what God has done.
Right.
It's you ain't making nothing. There's an entire law in science. You can't create nothing. Matter is neither created or destroyed.
Right.
So you're gonna have to go get something to make whatever it is you're trying to create. You can't snap your fingers and it be there.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it.
Exactly.
Right.
But the Christians believe in speaking certain things into existence through the Spirit. Science right now is studying why and how prayer works.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've given up fighting it because they're scientists. There's something there. So the scientists operating under an ontological philosophy has to find out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a duty almost to seek knowledge,
right,
as a scientist. And so that and it's like you said, science is philosophy, science is engineering, science is medicine, science is so I'm working on theories myself now, like surrounded around quantum mysticism, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you know good and well you sitting there and something got into somebody.
Right.
That person don't usually jump around and scream and mumble.
Mm-hmm.
So something is happening to them.
Right.
Why you just said it ain't happening or that don't make no sense. See, that's the way an ignorant person does.
Right. Right.
But if I'm sitting back watching it and I see Kurt start jumping and hollering and praising him, and then all of a sudden somebody in the back get hit with them. You've been in one of them churches before, right, Kurt? Y'all been to Pentecostal church?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, man, tell that you be in church all night long, people screaming, shouting, and hollering. And you know, they used to sing this song, "What Is This?" That's one of my favorite songs by Marvin Winans. What is this? Because you don't know. It's the Holy. We attribute it to the Spirit, the Holy Spirit. But see, if people will understand, yeah, you can. If you believe in the Holy Spirit, do understand the Bible speaks of all these other spirits out there too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, church has a certain path that they go, and it's the path of staying true to the morals and principles of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know, regular Christians, like I'm a Baptist, for instance. I'm Baptist Christian. I'm Baptist because I was baptized. That's it. It ain't nothing mystical about it.
Right.
I'm a Christian, a Baptist because I was baptized. Not all Christians go through baptism.
Right.
You know, I don't. You know, some people say, "Well, you got to be baptized." Show me where you got to be.
Right. Right. Well, that's like what Curtis said earlier. You know, show where you are. Where being inoculated is against the word.
Right. And see, there's several. Right. And you know how some people be pushing it, bro. You know, they add a little bit to it to make it sound like it worked. But there are several scriptures related to issues related to physicians and how physicians can treat you and you still die.
Yeah.
You still die. It don't matter how good the doctor is. So they'll say, had you leaned on God, you wouldn't have died. But then on the other side, we can say that person was a good Christian. But they dead too. So everybody, you know, got their opinion. Right. But science discusses what happened. Science never determines right or wrong. I think I heard you say that before. Science does not determine right or wrong. That's not the issue. Science is just to know. What you do with that may be right or wrong.
Right.
But the science part of it is knowing, answering questions and things.
Exactly. Having that understanding.
Yes, at least having been informed about the decision, at least.
Exactly. And you know, you're starting to see a lot of doctors and physicians that actually tell you that prayer works. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They want that to be a part of, because that positive energy has a part to play with the science and what they need to do to heal you too.
Especially with mental illness. For a long time, mental illness was a possession by the devil. Mm-hmm. And that's why these folks couldn't control themselves, because the devil was doing something to them. And they were cursed. And we found out many years down the road that there are chemical imbalances. My man Kurt does
Right.
counseling and everything. He can
Right.
tell you how trauma affects how people may behave,
Mhm.
all that stuff.
How it alters the mind.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, remember when we was talking about religion and we went off to the different sects and all the different sects. I hope I'm saying that right. Sects of religion. I want nobody to think I'm saying sex of religion. I'm saying SECT, I think is how they spell.
Yeah.
But when you think in terms of science, right, and you read the holy, okay, this is just my belief. I could be wrong. I ain't always right. I could be dead wrong on this. First off, the science of the hatred of the Muslim and the Christians, between the Muslims and the Christians, is based off the human genome. It's based off of basically Cain and Abel. It's based off of the prodigal son and the brother. Basically, it's two brothers who, that's why both religions can trace themselves back to Abraham. It's two brothers. I believe it's Isaac and Ishmael. One is responsible for the spreading of Christianity. The other one is responsible for the spreading of Islam, right? But now, here's the scientific part of it. In the book of, I want to say Exodus. It's either Exodus or is it? Yeah, I think it's Exodus. When Joshua takes control of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he has to go to Jericho. And God gives him instruction that says, what I want you to do is get your people there. Don't do nothing. I believe they were Babylonians. They're too strong. They're too powerful. So get your people there. And what I want you to do is I want you to walk around that city 7 times. 7. Right? And once you walk around on the 7th time, wait for me to tell you to blow the horn. So the story, if I'm not mistaken, is Joshua's kind of thrown back like, what? And he like, you'll see what's going to happen. The walls are going to come tumbling down, but you got to walk around it 7 times, right? So if you take a massive group of people, let's say 500,000, and you have them walk around your house 7 times, march around your house 7 times, 9 times out of 10, the foundation in your crib is going to shake.
Right.
So that if you send any kind of audio, a real strong horn to that house, 9 times out of 10, some bricks and some mortar going to fall.
Right.
That's all based off of science.
Sound waves
That you use the foot, you use the foot first, to rock the bottom, and then you use the horns to rock the top. Now, why do I say that it's crazy how they connect? Because if you're a Muslim and it's time for, I think they call it Hajj. Is it Hajj, Leonard?
The pilgrimage.
Yeah, the pilgrimage, where they go to Mecca. You know, they have to walk around. I can't remember I know what you're talking about.
I can't think of the name of it right now.
I can't think of the name, but they got to walk around it 7 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cobblestone.
They walk around. It's called what?
The cobblestone.
The cobblestone. So they walk around it 7 times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as they walking around, they throwing rocks at the stone. So is that? I'm just saying, is that emblematical to the Christian horn? What is the significance in throwing the rocks?
Right.
Cobblestone, right? Is that the significance? Now, when we look in the Holy Bible and we talk about David, right? We talk about Solomon building the temple. right? Check this out, man. If you go online and look up a picture of Jerusalem right now, right? And you look at the cathedral that's got the gold dome.
Right.
That is I want to make sure I say this right. That is the center, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, but it is that location right there is the center of King Solomon's temple.
Mm.
If you get a chance to because like I said, man has a God complex, so man try and separate the diaspora of religion and try and make
explainable.
They try and make it explainable and try and make people think that their God is greater than their God. Man got folk out here believing that Darwinism is real.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Man, come on, man. If Darwinism is real, then I know it's some mad gorillas right now. Why they stop evolving? You know
exactly.
What I mean?
Exactly.
So, like I was watching. You ever seen the movie Kingdom of Heaven?
Man, that's a good movie.
Mm.
In Kingdom of Heaven, a believer who feels that God is not speaking to him no more travels to Israel. At the time that he travels to Israel, he finds Muslims and Christians living amongst each other.
That's Jerusalem today.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the Muslim, it comes time for prayer. One of the most powerful things that I heard in that whole film that will stay with me for the rest of my life, brother, is they go to prayer and they stop working. So he asked the dude, "Hey man, what are they doing?" He say, they praying. He say, they pray 5 times a day. And guess what he told him, Rick?
What's that?
He looked back at him. He said, "Oh yeah, like we used to do."
And that's all.
You see what I'm saying? So, like, to me, it's almost crazy how we as Christians will separate science from God when everything that's in our book that talks these great feats and great situations and great circumstances and the prevalence thereof is all science.
Right.
Last but not least, I'll leave with this one. So Saul is on the road to Damascus. He's blind, correct?
Mm-hmm.
God sends an angel to Samuel, correct?
Right.
The angel tells Samuel, "All right, look, out on the side of the road out there is a man by the name of Saul. I need you to go out there. You need to witness to him, but before you witness to him, I want you to bend down, spit in your hand, grab some dirt, some clay, mix it together and cover his eyes." Now, Samuel was scared to death because Samuel knew who Saul was. Samuel knew, like, "Yo, what you mean? Like, you sending me to beat this guy? He is a persecutor of Christians. He gonna kill me." God, like, "Don't worry about it. I got you, son. Don't worry about it. I got you. Just do what I told you to do." Right?
Right.
He followed the instructions. Kind of like if we wanted to make a volcano. He followed the instructions. He went out there. He spit in his hand. He reached down. He grabbed some clay, rubbed it together, and rubbed it on Saul's eyes. And Saul's vision was restored. It's not a form of science. I'm just saying, is that not a form of science? What was in the clay?
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is a form of science. He was healed. It was some work done by the hands of another person. He actually played the part of a physician. But I got a call, Kurt. I'm gonna let Donald, Mr. Toussaint, gonna click in and give us a little work.
Good evening, man. I took me a nap after work.
How you doing today, Donald?
Man, I'm all right. How about yourself? I'm sorry I'm late.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem, man. We just kicked in from what we left off at last week, man, with this religion and science thing. Can they coexist, or are they gonna stay at odds with each other?
They've been existing since day one, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't know if I said that last week. I'll say it again. People with power and position want to limit you and me and anybody else. If anybody did some amazing things that was contrary to their thinking, was Jesus. And I'm not saying that he was a scientist, but he should have knew how to do some things that the scribes, the Pharisees, and the Sadducees didn't like, and it didn't go in with what they were doing, and it took away their authority because they ran the church. A lot of times you find, if you search it out, when science first started, the ones that had the problem with it was the Roman Catholics, because they had the power, the authority. So they start, and I think I said it before, they set folks afire. Because they thought they called it witchcraft.
Yep.
But science been around for a long time, and it's gonna be. What about medicine, man?
Right.
Even with people in power like Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, they had scientists or soothsayers and magicians and all the things that they would get advice from. People always had people that study stars, this and that and that.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Astrologists and stuff.
The only problem we have is we don't have dominion over each other. We got dominion over everything else.
Right. And I sort of see science in some situations that does try to deny the existence of something of a higher power than man. And my prime example is, which lets me know that there is a higher power than man. When some of these people have these accidents, these traumatic brain injuries, and then they come out the comas or whatever, speaking a language they never spoken before. That's pretty unexplainable scientifically. But when you dig deeper, you know that it has to be something bigger than me and you out there when a person can have these traumatic experiences and come out of coma speaking French and Japanese and all these different languages. They ain't never been to Japan in their life. They probably ain't never even ate Japanese food, but they can speak the language. So I think I've seen sometimes where science won't even admit, doctors or scientists won't admit, hey, it's a higher power. They'll just say it's unexplained, because they don't want to give religion or God his credit.
It's not. So, it's not really that, Reco. It is science deals with what you know, what you want to find out, and you can get to the end of some research and get to no conclusion. Science has never really been into the business of trying to take business away from the church, really.
Right.
Or vice versa. Science just basically say, hey, those people over there doing that, let me see what's going on. And it goes into using all the various tools and methods to try to find out, okay, what is actually here and what is happening. Right. Science and religious leaders pitted themselves against one another because of business. Remember now, the church can't have you running to Jesus and not coming to them.
Right.
That's how it was then. Okay, so Rome, think about it. Rome, you were talking about the pilgrimages and things like that. And you have to understand history and the reason why people go where they go. Jerusalem is one of the places where so many different various religions and people exist. And people don't want you to admit that. They want you to believe, well, this is just a place for Israel. No, Israel is working with the United States to kill everybody else. Okay, we're gonna put that out there, because those white Arabs want that land, and they're going to push everybody into the sea that don't believe that they should have it. And so we have to understand that when you say that place, they go to the Kaaba, which is supposedly, and things like that, the birthplace of the Prophet Muhammad. Now, Muslims go there because that's what they believe. And they go there because that is the holiest place to worship Allah. Now, remember, this place worshiped many deities. At one point in the Kaaba, it said that there were other deities there as well, statues as well. So you could worship what you wanted to worship. And this is why wars happen. Because when someone gets enough power, the first thing they do is we're going to kill all of them that believe this way. If we can't use them, we're going to take them and we're going to make them slaves and do whatever we want to them, or we're going to kill them. That's humanity. That's what humanity has done, especially as it relates to religion. Jerusalem is called Jerusalem because it is the city of peace.
Right.
But all you see is war back and forth. And of course, it is said that Abraham and his son Ishmael had built the Kaaba. And so that's why it's a holy place.
Right.
But we have to understand that even then, you still can't talk about that and don't talk about Hinduism. Because Hinduism was there as well. Right. So Christians are very arrogant, and their ignorance is bliss. And they will sit there and talk about the same lie for 200-300 years, and the truth be right down the street. But in order for you to feel as if you have righteous or not, and when you get into whether something is right or wrong, it's deontology. Right. And you know, it's how we attribute our religion to our ethical behavior and things of that nature. How we behave because of that religion. And so we have to look at different societies at different times at different places, simply had their scientists believed one thing, and that's what they went with.
Well, Leonard.
Yes, sir.
You know, brother, thank you, because you just opened up a whole, man. Because when I realistically think about it, right, every other religious sect speaks of a certain element of science.
Yes.
But Christianity. So is the possibilities, like you just said, man's need to control folks outrule the natural law of God, which is science.
It don't overrule.
No, I'm saying man's natural need, man's natural God complex on a Christian level says that if I want these people I need these people to believe like I believe. So I need to remove the science aspect of spirituality and of religion out of. I have never been to a Christian church and heard a pastor talk to me about science, ever. And if he did talk about science, it was very, very surface based. You are a man, she is a woman.
That's pretty much Christianity.
Right. You see what I'm saying? But now if I go to the mosque, the brothers are sat down and tell me why the stars are aligning the way that they're aligning.
Right, exactly.
The highest meridian of the sun. Hey, brother, understand. Look, man, you don't need no dark colors on between the hours of such and such and such and such, bro. The sun is going to be at its highest meridian at 12 noon. You're going to burn up. You know, just different parts of science, how to feed your body. And then here's the thing that really always intrigued me. As I got older, my grandmother used to tell me all the time, she used to say, baby, you ever get sick, all you got to do is look in the Bible. I was like, Mom, what you talking about? She was like, baby, the cure for any illness is in the holy books. All you gotta do is pick one of them up. Pick one up and start reading. Find out where it's at in the book, and then read that scripture canon text. Or oh God, it's escaping me now. But you read the scripture canon text, and it'll tell you how to cure certain things. Mm-hmm. Once again, the arrogance of Christianity. I ain't never heard no preacher talk about that.
Because remember, the most successful people that don't have degrees and all, remember the preacher didn't have no degree.
Right.
He had the ability to move the spirit of people. That's what made him a great preacher. Not that he was so intelligent, but he knew how to inspire and move people and had the quote the power to invoke the Holy Ghost. So he ain't need to go to school for that.
Right. So that's why they ain't teaching no science like Kurt
they
said.
can't teach science because they don't know none.
That's right.
But now you have some preachers who are scientists who have those types of jobs and things like that. Say, for instance, Minister Neal is very much into biology and medicine and things of what he does for his job, and he's a pastor. So there are certain things that he knows that he can interject into his learning to share with his congregation.
Right. I think that'll bring a lot of society together too. I mean, because like I said, here recently, and maybe in the past decade or so, I've seen different documentaries and shows that did sort of, I ain't gonna say equate, but they showed the relationship between religion and science and how they could work together, and it made so much sense. There's something, like I said, we just truly just don't have an understanding about.
According to, that's why I say one of those dilemmas in the scripture. The scripture has a lot of great stuff in it if you really read it. There's a lot of great things as far as natural herbs, ways to build things, like what Kurt was talking about. There's a lot of astrology in there, a lot of numerology in the Bible as well.
Yep.
So
earth sciences, the chanting,
right,
all that stuff.
And
man.
See, this is why they didn't want you to really. People don't want you to. The slave masters didn't want you to read. Mm-hmm. Because you've heard to say that if you read, you're going to have liberty. Once you begin to read and to know, you're going to have a desire for liberty that was greater than any that was ever before. Right. So that's one thing they did know.
Well, I got two callers on call in at the last minute, and we got like 2 minutes left, so I'm going to try to give them a minute apiece. Give me the first caller. Give me your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, this is Alex. This Pooh. What's up, Reco?
What's going on, Pooh? What's happening, man?
Oh, not much. Yeah, I just chimed in kind of late. I know, you're about to get ready to close out, but I just wanted to chime in, man. On the subject, and everything. But me personally, I feel that the Spirit of God, gave Jesus the power to defy all forms of science. Science will never justify the works of God. Science will never justify the works of God, no matter how, because that's when it falls on over into like the sorcery, and that's all I pretty much wanted to say, that, it ain't no justification on the work.
We'll be going on to the end of time trying to prove God's work in the universe through science, through man. Man will never be able to prove that, to get the facts that we need to justify. I got a second caller. Let me get your name, second caller, and where you calling from.
Okay, and it's a movie called Case for Christ that's pretty good. I encourage everybody to watch that. It's pretty good.
Y'all hear that? Case for Christ.
Case for Christ. It's pretty good.
All right, I'm gonna check that out, Pooh, man. I appreciate you calling in, man. I don't win over, but I'm gonna try to see if I can get this one more call in. And go ahead and say your name and where you're calling from. That may be it. I guess they maybe hung up. Are you still there? Going once, going twice? Are you on mute? Maybe they're gone. Well, I don't went over for 1 minute. I want to thank my co-guests for coming on, my guests for coming on, Leonard Jones and Kurt from the Morning Glow. Both of those guys, man, I mean, they light it up every morning for the DKM Media Group. And if you can, share this broadcast. And tomorrow morning, tune in at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time, and it's 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time to the Morning Glow on DKM Media Group and Associates. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to Coblo's The Whistle, or The Whistle featuring Coblo. And if you can, tune in this week. Thank you and peace.